Welcome to the Synergy Sessions, Aging Smarter in Silicon Valley. I'm your host, Tom Nelson, and I know firsthand as a family caregiver and part of the sandwich generation how tough it can be to take care of your aging parents while balancing your own life, career, and family. We'll bring you the experts and information necessary to help make your life a little bit easier and you a little bit smarter. Synergy Sessions is brought to you by Synergy Home Care, bringing you personalized in-home care and peace of mind to Silicon Valley families. I really do hope you enjoy the show. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Synergy Sessions, Aging Smarter in Silicon Valley. I'm your host, Tom Nelson, and today I am thrilled to have Paul Rooney, who is the Chief Growth Officer, and Luke Buzaid, Senior Account Manager with Aloe Care Health. Thanks so much for being here, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Tom.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having us.
So I wanted to just give a quick overview. So Aloe Care Health is a comprehensive solutions company for supporting independent older adults. We believe that technology can do a better job of keeping older adults safe and connected to their caregivers. And when it does, humans are empowered to do what they do best, give care, supporting independent older adults in safety, communication, and care collaboration. So for me, I know what all this is, but as an overview, this is remote home monitoring as a foundational, but there are so many other things as well. So I wanted to really get this out to everybody because I've used home monitoring. It is very powerful. And I think the Aloe Care product that you have is, I think best in class. I'm so impressed and I wanted to give you a chance to explain it probably so much better than I would. Why don't we just start with Paul and Luke? Why don't you just what you do in your roles, and then which other of you want to just kind of give an overview of what Aloe Care does in general?
Yeah, so my name's Luke Buzaid. I've been with Aloe Care for around 4.5 years now, Paul, if you can believe that. Working with Paul on the growth team as an account manager now and a senior account manager. So I'm kind of the point person for our partners, whether it's private duty home care, Medicare, and I do some Medicaid as well, kind of helping them through the cycle of onboarding, keeping their clients, getting the unit set up, and then even offboarding later on if a client were to pass away or no longer need the service, and just going over how the products work, troubleshooting the products, and then showing it how you can market it as well. So kind of just the middleman between the partner and Aloe Care Health and working to make sure everything's successful for both parties.
Perfect. Paul Rooney, Chief Growth Officer. So work with Luke and others on my team. It's about growth, right? It's about partnerships. It's about working with our partners that are out there trying to solve the needs and address the needs around home safety. There's a lot of good data out there, AARP and others. About 90% of people want to age in place. They want to stay home. That's where they feel best. The outcomes are better. Lower cost of care, frankly, right?
Yep.
So it's really about, for me, on the growth side of things, is just finding those partnerships where we can add value, where we can, frankly, we do think about it, Tom, as, and I forget who I heard term this, so I won't take credit for it, but it's the digital. It's the digital. It's kind of what we do to digital, the technology. That's great. It's important. But it's about the physical, and it's really about the care that's provided, the human touch inside the home that you just can't beat. You can't replace it. That's not what we're about. We want to complement it. We want to supplement it and hopefully make it a little bit more maybe effective, efficient, help with some 24/7 monitoring because that can be very costly. But we're there really to support our partners and the clients. And then the other key aspect of the way we think about this, Tom, is, and I personally speaking, I'm a caregiver. My mom lives by herself. So we're thinking about the older adults. We're also thinking about those caregivers, whether that's family members, loved ones struggling with that work-life balance and kids and careers and everything else, or the professional caregivers, people that are going into the home providing care and trying to help with that. And then one other point, we also think, and my background was more on the older adult, the Medicare side. And what I have learned over the last couple of years is we do tend to think a lot about the older adults, and that's kind of the obvious client for something like Aloe Care or a home care, home safety, a monitoring system. But there's a lot of other people out there that need this sort of help, that need some technology to help them remain safely in their community. We would do a lot in Medicaid with enabling technology, assistive technology programs. And that's a wide kind of diverse group of individuals, all age groups that are using and need technology.
Right. Well, I think that's, overall a great point. I call it, so part of, in all transparency, so My home care company, Synergy Home Care, is partnering with Aloe Care in this kind of wraparound, what I call as high tech and high touch, right? So
Yes.
Aloe Care brings that high tech. And I'm in Silicon Valley. I've been in the health and wellness for 30 plus years and now in the home care as well, as I've done a lot of technology and technology and the actual human component, as you just mentioned, whether it's a family caregiver, which I too have been for my parents for many, many years, a primary family caregiver. So that's where I
Uh-huh.
really know the value of this. Combined with the technology, I think upgrades and enhances the whole experience to what you're exactly saying, Paul, is like keeping them in their home for better outcomes. And frankly, most people want to stay in their own homes for as long as possible and as long as it's safe, which is, I think, a good segue because I think that's one of the key components of Aloe Care is like the safety component. So the primary end user is mostly older adults, but really, I think the people who are benefiting from it equally, if not more, are the adult children, the sandwich
Yes.
generation who want to make sure that their parent is safe and that they can connect with them. So I'm going to very quickly an example is, I would call my dad and his phone went out of batteries or he couldn't find it or whatever. So
Mhm.
it creates additional
Yes.
transparency around that. So maybe Luke, you do a really good job. Maybe you can explain, okay, because we kept a really high level. So now I'm listening to this podcast going, okay, wait, I'm still not sure what this is. So exactly. So home monitoring, could you explain exactly what it is and maybe some of the peripherals on there that kind of enhance
Of
that
course. Yeah.
experience
So
to keep people safe?
yeah. So the main home unit that we're talking about in reference to is actually called the Essential Smart Hub. And with
Hmm.
this unit, the unit's usually a stationary unit that would go in the most localized room in the house, usually where that individual is spending most of their time, right? You want the data that's receiving to be relevant to the information that in that environment where they're spending a vast majority of their time. And what makes the Smart Hub really, really impactful is the fact that in this one very passive sensor, it's reactionary, of course, but it's passively collecting data that's non-invasive. It's going to collect things like motion data over periods of time, mobility patterns, CO2
Hmm.
levels, VOC levels, which is volatile
Hmm.
organic compounds, if you're not familiar, as well as
Yep.
temperature and light. So in one little sensor, this is the main bundle that we do offer, the main introduction offer, is collecting so many different passive features in the environment and it's reporting it not only to the care circle that we established, like the caregivers, the adult family members, but
Right.
also providing it to you as our partner in a channel where you can access this data and bring it to the client's purview, make them aware of it. And with the
Right.
data that we collect is only improved on by the peripheral sensors that we also offer. So not only does this device have the capacity to dispatch an ambulance that they need, it also has the capacity to operate as almost like a cell phone where loved ones can call directly into it. That older adult can actually trigger speed dials outbound. And a big thing that we see, a big utility of this device specifically, is that when we are going through a dispatch protocol, when you're connecting to the emergency response team, whether the individual
Hmm.
says emergency, they use a voice activation, or they press the wearable button, part of that flow is that the emergency response team is going to ask them, hey, do you want us to contact your family first? And what we do
Right.
see is around, Paul, I think you know the statistic better than I do, but around 30 to 40% of all emergency calls are actually then opted to route to their loved ones, which helps save
Hmm.
an unnecessary dispatch costs or ambulatory costs as well. So
Right.
it's very much so thought out with the intention of an older adult having an emergency and being passive in their environment, but also
Hmm.
understanding the nuance of an older adult's care and that they may not always be able to afford a dispatch. And sometimes their family members may be local, not remote, and able to kind of come and help them in the situation that they found
Right.
themselves.
Yep.
So those are really good point that it becomes a two-way connection. So like in my example, if the loved one can't reach them, they can patch in through the hub.
Yeah.
So, and so I think is a primary um, difference. And maybe again, I'm going to jump down to a question I had later on. What is because it's a good segue. What is the difference between like a something for lack of a better term, like a life alert or something where it's
Mhm.
an emergency button versus what we're talking about here? Because I think that's probably the biggest
Yeah. Yeah.
misconception or confusion around these two types of products.
I was on a call, I think it was late last week, where somebody kind of framed us as the fancy PERS, fancy personal emergency response system. So backing
Okay.
up, Tom, we started the company because we had older adults in our life that said, I'm not going to wear the button, right?
Yeah.
there.
Right.
That's embarrassing. That makes me feel old. I don't want to lose my independence. I'm not going to fall.
Yeah.
I don't need it. The data would show
Right.
something else. 1 in 4 older adults will fall this year, right? It's
Yeah.
pretty startling.
Yeah.
I think the latest stats, 41,000 deaths a year due to falls, and that's up.
Yeah.
The latest stat before that was like
Yeah.
38,000. So it's not getting better, if you will, even
Right.
though there's this technology out there. So that's what drives us. So
Mm-hmm.
again, the fancy personal emergency response system. So some of the key innovations or differences, first of all, is we're voice first. So if
Mm-hmm.
somebody needs help, they're not wearing the button, they can use their
Yeah.
voice, emergency, that will trigger our system and that will bring our call center right onto the system. So they don't need
Okay.
to wear the button. Now, the reality is some people will wear it, but only 14% of people will wear it 24 hours a day. So we want to make it easy for them to get help, whether they're wearing that button or not. Right.
Yeah.
And then there's other, not to get into too much of the minutia, but there's some other key differentiators when it comes to ease of setup. It's got to be easy, right? So we spent a lot of time making this very friendly for older adults
Mm-hmm.
in particular. It's plug and play. You literally plug it in, it's up and
Yeah.
running. You don't need to bother with Wi-Fi. If you have Wi-Fi and you remember the password and you want to deal with it, great. We'll connect with it to Wi-Fi. Otherwise, we're using LTE. So it's just a very simple
Mm-hmm.
setup process.
Right.
Plug it in, it's up and running. You put it in the family room, and maybe you never need it, right? But it's
Yeah.
there for that safety, as that safeguard, and then it can be used as a communication device, as Luke mentioned. And really, we think about it in a couple of different ways. So it's making sure the user, Mrs. Smith, we talk about Mrs. Smith a
Mm-hmm.
lot, right,
Yeah.
is getting the right care at the right time from the right person. So whether
Right.
she's wearing a button or not, let's make sure she can get help. Let's make sure she can get the right help. And about the actual stat, Luke, is about 46% of the time when Mrs.
Mm-hmm.
Smith says, "Hey, I want or need help," she doesn't want or need emergency services coming to the house. It's some other
Right.
situation. Maybe it's a slow fall. She just needs some help back onto the couch, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's about getting the right help at the right time from the right person. And then where it's really going, where this industry is going, Tom, we're trying to drive this to a large degree,
Mm-hmm.
is moving from reactive to proactive, using
Yes.
predictive analytics, using machine learning, using the data that we're gathering to then be able to predict that Mrs. Smith is high risk for a fall in the next week. And then alerting our great partners like you guys that can
Mm-hmm.
then take an intervention there, engage with Mrs.
Yeah.
Smith, and try to prevent that fall from occurring in the first place. That's
Right.
what drives us.
I think that is a huge differentiator between the two. And backing up one more step, I think one of the clear differences is you have to be of your own volition to press that button or whatever. And I know from my experience with my parents and with my clients and just being in this industry that this is definitely not any documented stat, but 9 out of 10 or most don't want to bother
I love
their
it.
kids. They don't, you'll never know what's going wrong until you actually get eyes on them. So the predictive, but also maybe talk about, maybe Luke, if you want to talk about the AI part around identifying changes in their normal routine and patterns, because those are the things to me, you pick up on that and go, there's something, something wrong or that's, and then the machine learning that you're talking about would even take that predictability even way further. But from a fundamental, why don't you talk about that? Like if that change in the normal routine alerts and how that's powerful.
Yeah, of course. So the main smart hub that we spoke of briefly, the one that goes stationary in the home, there are motion sensors built into it. So we could just say if
Mhm.
somebody were to have that in their home, right, the motion sensors over a period of time are going to pick up a baseline, a threshold that a person operates in day by day, month by month, week by week, right?
Mhm.
So our system, after a unit's been online, let's just say a year, every day the system notices that a client is walking maybe 100 motion counts. Let's just make it really easy. A motion count is every time they walk by the smart hub motion sensors, right?
Mhm.
Let's say every day for a year, they're walking at least 100 times in front of the sensor.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, for a period of time, maybe it's 3-4 days, we notice that 100 times is down to 50, 60 times
Mhm.
in front of it. And maybe that sustains for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Well,
Mhm.
CDC actually does indicate that is one of the first major indications of a long life fall, is a decrease in
Yeah.
mobility patterns and overall movement trends. So if they're down from 100 to 60, that's around a 40% decrease in overall mobility, right? So if in our AI system, that's essentially going to see that as a concerning amount of decrease and sustaining of that decrease and flag to you and the family saying, hey, their motion
Hmm.
has decreased such a substantial amount, they are a fall risk. Now, that AI tag of a fall risk does not necessarily mean that they are going to have a fall. But what it makes you aware of is that their trends are trending towards that fall reality. And we're trying, like Paul said, to be proactive and get ahead of these
Yeah.
falls before they become a major life event and a major
Right.
deteriorating factor in the individual's life. I've seen it with my grandfather, I've seen it with a
Hmm.
couple people in my family, and not
Yeah.
having a device in place or something in the home when that fall does occur can be the difference between them getting help and going back to somewhat normal health to them not having any of that regularity that they
Right.
previously had in their life, kind of becoming, I'm in PT, I'm going to rehab, I'm getting back to try and get back to where I was. And the sad
Yeah.
reality is when you're 80, you're 90, the climb back is a lot harder than it is for younger people. And it's really
Yeah.
hard for them to recover from that long life fall
Right.
once it does happen.
Right. Well, that's been my experience, is that the fall doesn't necessarily kill them.
No.
It starts a chain of events. And I've
Yeah.
seen it so many times. The fall starts, and then that starts the decline over time. So you can get ahead of that fall. But even on a more basic level, um, if it's, let's say they get up at a certain time every day, and then one day they don't. I mean, that you don't need weeks of data for that. That's something. So at that point, is the family caregiver alerted for some, like, a significant difference?
Yeah. So, like, for instance, I think a great testament to this would be so I think I talked to you, Tom, about my grandfather who did have a major
Mm-hmm.
fall a few years ago,
Yeah.
actually, right before I started working with Aloe Care. But for my grandfather, he was in his 90s. He was a very
Mhm.
a very stern individual who, he had a lot of respect for himself. He thought that he
Yeah.
was still 50 in his 90s, essentially. He would mow
Yeah.
his lawn, he'd tend to his chickens on a farm. And the
Mhm.
most care that he would accept is Meals on Wheels Monday and Friday. That's the bare minimum. We were begging him, hey, come live with
Yeah.
us. Come live with my aunts. We need to
Yeah.
get you some more help. You're in your 90s. He said, no, I'm adamant. I don't need your help. He was one of those stubborn older individuals that didn't realize,
Mhm.
that he was at great health until he wasn't. So they
Yeah.
came out for Meals on Wheels on a Monday. They dropped him off his bread, his chicken, his staple food for the
Yeah.
week. And to our knowledge, he went to the chicken coop to get his eggs. He was making that you make a piece of toast, you cut an egg, put it in the middle. Um,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, when he went to the chicken coop, he had a major fall. And it wasn't
Yeah.
abnormal for him to go, let's say, 3-4 days without answering the cell phone or landline. He was 93. He didn't like the cell
Yeah.
phone. He wasn't answering it because of scam and spam calls. So to our surprise, Friday when Meals on Wheels showed up, they realized that the front door is wide open. The chickens are roaming around his farm, and that his body, he was still alive, luckily, but he had sustained major injuries, broken
Yeah.
wrists, broken ribs, severe bruising, and he was
Yeah.
93. So that
Yeah.
type of injury you don't really come back to. He was no longer the type of guy after he had that fall mowing his
Yeah.
lawn, tending to his chickens. The reality was much more of he was in rehab facilities living with my aunts, trying to get back to where he was. But
Yeah.
the point I'm trying to make here is had he had something as simple as just the smart hub with motion sensors in his main kitchen, by 5 o'clock on Monday, we would have seen that there was no motion. We would have known that something was wrong, and we could have gotten
Yeah.
him an ambulance or help much faster. We wouldn't have had to wait
Right.
3-4 days until Friday for someone to find
Yeah.
him on the ground severely dehydrated and broken. And
Yeah.
that's something that I really see the true value and the essentials in it bear of itself is just the fact that you see these trends day by day. We would have
Mhm.
known that he was not there, and we could have acted much faster than we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom, we all
Absolutely.
have kind of our habits and routines, right? And
Yeah.
Mhm.
particularly as you get older, you're used to your habits and routines. So to your point, right? My mom's up in the kitchen grabbing a cup of coffee usually every day by about 9 o'clock or so. If she's
Mhm.
not in the kitchen getting her coffee, then I can get an alert, say, hey, you might want to
Right.
check in with mom. And it's exactly as you said. What I know
Yeah.
personally is she does not want to be a burden. She is not going to call
Yeah.
me and say, Paul, I'm feeling a little under the weather today. I've got a
Mhm.
cold, etc. I'm staying in bed a little longer. But
Right.
if I call in and say, hey, mom, just checking in on you, make sure it's
Yeah.
okay, she will be a little bit more forthcoming. She will say, okay, I'm not
Yeah.
feeling great. And then I can get over there. I can bring her some medicine. I can do whatever I need to
Right.
do. But none of that would have happened without that little help from the technology and getting
Right.
that alert to take that
Yeah.
intervention, if you will.
Absolutely. And conversely, if you're calling in and they're not answering, you
Right.
can look and see they got up normal. Everything seems to be fine. It's not an emergency. I'll catch up with them later, or call in through
Yeah.
the hub or whatever it is. But at least you know that, for the most part, you can see it seems pretty normal, so that
Yeah.
way it's just more visibility and transparency into what's going on. Without, and this is another point I didn't even have as a question, because it's a good point. There's no video cameras. There's, the dignity part, right? Because I'm thinking about people watching this now going, well, I don't want to have a camera in my house, or my parents will never,
Yeah.
that will never fly. This is not a camera. So as Luke was saying, this is motion sensors, uh, and the scenario you just described, Luke, is that in itself is huge. You can see, are they moving like normal? And if not, we need to take a look in there.
Yeah.
Now so that alone is huge. So, but let's talk about some of the other peripherals that you have on there. So you have things that also add even more transparency and information to provide that predictive or alerting. So I know there's fall detectors, there's the bed
Yeah.
mat if they're getting up and down, and then also other motion sensors in other parts of the house to even provide even more visibility. So maybe talk about more of the full comprehensive wraparound
Yeah, of course. So yeah, the main
components.
smart that we've discussed a lot today, that's kind of the main connecting fabric for the peripheral sensors. We
Mhm.
do have an additional standalone device called the mobile companion. I think I'll talk about that first, just to kind of go over it since it is a standalone
Sure.
device. But the
Yep.
mobile companion is a mobile personal emergency response system. It's called NPERS, kind of similar to the PERS that Paul mentioned earlier, which is a
Yep.
smart hub. But the real utility of the NPERS, or the mobile companion 2, is actually the fact that it works anywhere in the continental United States and can dispatch
Yep.
anywhere. So if
Okay.
somebody's address on file is, I'm in New Jersey, I'm in Jersey. Let's
Yeah.
just say I'm out in Silicon Valley visiting you, Tom,
Yep.
right? And I
Yep.
bring my mobile companion, and maybe I fall,
Yep.
or I go with my grandfather, my grandmother, they're wearing it and they fall.
Yeah.
And let's say their address is New Jersey. No matter where they are in the continental United States, if they're wearing that device, they'll get help in that state where they are, and with the
Okay.
appropriate county dispatching services. So it's going to be notifying the right people in that location to get them help. But not
Okay.
only that device is revolutionary, not just because of that aspect of it, because what this one does also offers built-in fall detection, outbound speed dialing, and real-time GPS location tracking for the family
Yeah.
members. So we've had
Okay.
clients who they use this to monitor their loved one's motion, out and about the home. We've had individuals who maybe they're very, very travel heavy older adults. They want
Mhm.
to go on a road trip across the United States, but their family
Mhm.
wants to make sure they're safe. This is usually what they would
Mhm.
offer them to take with them so they can see
Yeah.
where they're going. They make a nice little fun event out of checking where they are in the country through the tracking
Mhm.
of the Google Maps. And it's non invasive. It's just worn on their person,
Right.
either on a lanyard or a belt clip,
Yeah.
and offering real time GPS location tracking and fall
Yeah.
detection anywhere they are. But not
Yeah.
just that, that's essentially the other main component of like a standalone device. We do have extra motion sensors that would then connect to the smart hub. So this is really useful for maybe they have a large home, right? And that one smart hub's not picking up motion in the bathroom and certain
Mhm.
hallways. Maybe you want to put it towards a
Yeah.
door, the front door, back door, to track people coming in and going out.
Yeah.
We do have additional
Okay.
motion sensors that you can place anywhere in the home. And if you were to
Mhm.
put it in the bathroom, let's just say like you put one in their bathroom 1, bathroom 2, it's really
Yeah.
useful to have those in the bathroom, because with that AI tagging, we do have AI that goes through UTI risk and dehydration risk. And that's based
Mhm.
on usually an increase or a decrease in overall bathroom visits during nighttime and
Yeah.
daytime. So that helps us not only understand their fall risk, but also understand and get ahead of a UTI before it becomes something much more major. And
Right.
not only that, we also do have that smart fall sensor that is dedicated for their bathroom with voice activation. That would
Mhm.
require Wi-Fi, but that's a really cool
Mhm.
unit. Essentially, what you do with the setup for that is you'd place it in the bathroom that they usually go to at night, where that's where most falls
Mhm.
do occur. And with that sensor, essentially, it uses radar technology. It's really cool to set up. It'll have you go to the sink. It's like walk to the sink, walk to the toilet, sit on the toilet, walk into the tub. And what it's doing is it's scoping the room so it understands
Yeah.
where, like, the momentum going down will be normal, like the toilet or the bathtub, and then
Yes.
be able to kind of assess the room if there was any anomalous, fall in that environment. And through
Right.
that device, like the smart hub, there is the voice activation too, and they can actually talk to the dispatching party or the emergency response team through that device itself. And then one more thing that we do offer, two more things actually, we have entry sensors which can go on the
Mhm.
front door, back door. You can even put them on car
Yeah.
door. And what that's going to do is it's going to notify you and the family saying, hey, door 1, which could be the front door, back door,
Yeah.
was opened at this time. So you're aware of when they're going, when they're leaving. And then
Mhm.
we do have the sleep mat as well, which is one of our newer sensors. And that would go underneath the bed. It's not a wearable. It goes
Yeah.
around chest level underneath the bed. It works on slats or beds with a box spring.
Mhm.
And the great thing about that is it's going to give you true insights into their overall sleeping patterns, like in and out of bedtime, how long it took for them to fall asleep, how long it took for them to get out of bed once they woke up, their overall
Mhm.
sleep score. And it's going to give you a restlessness overall score as
Yeah.
well. And
Wow.
what's really valuable about that is like maybe the smart hub's not picking up motion at night, but they're not sleeping well. You notice that they're declining. You put a sleep med in, all of a sudden you realize that they're laying in bed, they're not getting up, but they're not sleeping. They're just up all
Right.
night, not getting rest, and that's why they're deteriorating over a period of time. The sleep med will be able to pick up on things like that. And we do partner with a company called Withings for it, and they're working to add heart rate to it as well as sleep apnea
Oh, wow.
readings in the near future. So it's a very powerful device
Yeah.
with a lot of functionality to it. And all it's doing is assessing, without being on their person at all, their
Mhm.
nighttime behaviors from their bed as well.
Right.
Yeah, I
Wow.
think, Tom, if I could add,
Hmm.
and the way we think about it, right, and we've learned this, is there's not a one size fits all. So depending on
Yeah.
where that care setting is, whether a home or somewhere else, and depending on
Mhm.
where they are on kind of that continuum of care and conditions and needs, we try to
Right.
think about it broadly. So you're still independent, you're still taking walks, you're still traveling, maybe you're still
Yeah.
doing some grocery shopping. Our mobile companion's a great fit.
Hmm.
As your needs
Right.
evolve, right, you may become more in need of more support. So then you get our
Hmm.
smart hub in the home. And then as things continue to progress, then maybe there's a radar fall sensor, additional motion sensors. So we want to kind of help along that continuum of care again, regardless
Right.
of where they are, and just meet them where they need to be met.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I was as Luke was talking about the mobile device, is that they could be in another state, but they could just be at the store in the parking lot or
Absolutely.
going on
Yep.
around the block for a walk, and it goes off, and then they're not at home. They're
Right.
they're a block
Right.
away or wherever they're at. So I mean, I think that's pretty powerful. Trying to think about what you had just said about the evolution of things, and how we found from an application is that one of the things that we find after holidays and things where the adult children come back, they see their parents for the first time in a long time, and they go, oh my gosh, things are coming off the rail. Their house isn't, it's not kept, and they're always neat, and all
Yeah.
these things that you don't see. We've paired Aloe Care with the program that we have as Safe at Home, which is not only the remote monitoring, but then we can come in for a wellness check and actually get eyes on them once a week or something like
Yeah.
that, and also help them. So it's all, and then obviously if they need additional care, they stop driving or something, we can always help them along the way. But I love this because it could just be the hub, and that's all they need because they're very
Right.
independent. They don't need anything,
Yeah.
but but it progresses with them too, with the end product or the end game of staying independent at home for as long as possible, and also getting ahead of those crises, because that's what usually happens. That shortens that stay at home period, as they have an event or some type of
Yeah.
crisis, and then it deteriorates from there.
You're exactly right. I mean, good or bad, reality is our busiest time of the year is around the holidays, as you mentioned, because
Hmm.
families are getting together. It might have been a while, and they're saying, "Okay, mom and dad, yeah, you're getting a little older, and we need to get some
Yeah.
help." And we're really trying to change that with the way we approach with even things as simple as the way the system looks. Right? I don't
Hmm.
mind putting it on the coffee table in the center of my home
Yeah.
because it doesn't have this big red button that's kind of embarrassing. So
Yeah.
in the past, it was pretty much mom had a fall, so we need to get her this, and it's not too late, but we want to help earlier to try and prevent that fall. So now what we're seeing is older adults and others say, you know what, yeah, I'm not a fall yet, but I don't mind the system. I like the way it looks. I'll put it in the back. It's ambient.
Hmm.
Maybe I'll never need it, but I know it's sitting there. I know I can get
Yeah.
help if I need it. And oh, by the way, it's got some really cool engagement features where I can reach out to my family
Yeah.
very easily and they can call me very
Right.
easily too. So I welcome it. And now
Hmm.
I'm going to get it earlier, if you will, and use it. And,
Right.
and hopefully we can help prolong that time at home.
Right. So for people in Silicon Valley that I serve, obviously, if they want to take a next step and
Yeah.
explore if this is a good fit for them, they would call me. I would work with them on the installation and all the different things, and we would go through a needs assessment on what they might need. What if they're in New Jersey or another state or somewhere that I'm not? So what's the step for them to engage with you to have your product in their home?
Yeah. So a couple of thoughts on that. So absolutely they can contact us directly. So I mentioned earlier, and I just want to be clear about our B2B
Hmm.
relationships with certain
Hmm.
partners. Absolutely. But we do and will support somebody that wants to, it's an individual family situation. They
Yep.
want to come to us and
Yep.
use the system. We will help them with that. And we do that all day, every day. So I
Right.
just want to make that clear so they can call us. And what we'll do
Right.
is, as part of our partnership network, we might be able to hook them up, if you will, introduce them to one of our partners, depending on where they are. We work with Synergy
Right.
across the country, right? There might be another Synergy owner somewhere that
Right.
can help them, Tom. If
Yeah.
not, we will work with them directly. We will talk with the family, the caregivers, understand their needs, assess the situation, get them set up with the units, send it right to their home. It's very simple to do.
Right.
So yes, please contact us directly. We'd be
Okay.
happy to have a
Yeah.
conversation if
Right.
anybody is interested.
Well, and we'll have all your contact information in the show notes
So,
here and everything. It'll be very easy for people to contact you. So as a kind of a overview recap here, so the hub is kind of the primary. It has the motion sensor, all, and also detects all the other kind of potential harmful things in the environment. I can mention the
right.
CO2, the temperature, the particles, all those types of things. It becomes a two-way intercom. If they've fallen, they can't get to their phone or their button, they can actually talk to through the hub. The loved one can talk through the hub if they can't reach them. The peripherals are
Yeah.
fall detection, motion sensing that helps alert in case something's awry or they're not moving and they haven't for a long time. All these things are super powerful. What haven't we talked about yet that maybe is important for people to know? I mean, I think it's very obvious that, somebody is probably, as they age, there's going to have some type of an event, and to have something like this is going to reduce their risks of, something really bad happening. But what haven't we talked about yet that's important to know, if anything? I mean, we've covered a lot.
So I think maybe the one thing that we haven't really shed a lot of light on is just the app that the family members are going to have at their disposal. So I think that
Right.
that's a good thing to maybe just touch upon so they understand how that
Hmm.
operates, right? So as our partner, you have your partner portal, the family members have their app. All of the
Hmm.
data that their units are collecting for their loved one will actually aggregate to the app. So they'll see things like the motion count, they'll see things like the
Right.
CO2 levels, the temperature, the temperature inside their home compared to the
Hmm.
temperature outside the home. And Paul, I actually do remember this was a couple years ago. We were at a conference, and Paul was going in his app because he used it with his mom, and he noticed that the temperature. He's from Arizona, so it's very hot there, especially in the
Yeah.
summertime. And he noticed that I think your mom's part or her home was like 90 degrees, and you're like, Ma, like
Yeah.
he called her directly through the smart hub while we're at conference getting a coffee during like lunch break, and he's like, Ma, what are you doing? Why don't you tell me that your AC is not working? She's like, oh, I knew
Yeah.
you were at a business trip. I didn't want to bother you. And he's like, it's Arizona. It's not like you're in Jersey or New York. It's Arizona. You're in the desert.
Yeah.
Like you need to have your AC on. It's May. You were able to fix that pretty quickly for her and get the right
Yeah.
people involved. So I always think of that. That's
Yeah.
right when I first started with Aloe Care. The app
Yeah.
is the family's best friend because it gives them an insight to what's really going on in their loved one's house or their environment.
Yeah.
It also gives them a way to not only communicate like what they believe is happening with data,
Yeah.
but it also gives them an avenue to not only just update information on that client, they also can update something called the health card, which is what we provide upon dispatch. And this is something that's
Mhm.
really, really integral to how we operate, especially in a dispatch protocol. And what we do is we have this card essentially with any home access information, pet information, if they have medication in the home, if they have any ailments,
Yeah.
diseases, all that information, if it's aggregated and put into there for the dispatching
Mhm.
service, they will actually get that provided to them upon an ambulance showing. So they know, hey, there's a garage code that we can enter to get them. We don't have to break down the front door, or there's
Right.
there's a dog and a cat. So we want to make sure that we don't let them out. And that they have a bad hip, they had major surgery a year ago. We should make sure that we
Mhm.
guard that side if we were to lift them up and pick them up. And so it
Right.
just helps streamline the overall approach of the dispatch and make sure that they're getting the appropriate help in a much more timely fashion.
Yeah. No, that's a great point,
Yeah.
I forgot about that because it's important to know that the connection is between the family caregiver and their parent or whoever is the loved one
Mhm.
that is being serviced by Aloe Care. The only
Yeah.
time that the dispatcher EMS is going to be activated is in case there is an emergency.
Right.
It's not like the family's waiting for somebody to call them and tell them what's going on the day-to-day basis. They have that
Yeah.
direct access. They're driving this thing. It's between them. Even in my environment, I'm not a go-between. I'm not monitoring. This is between them, although I
Yeah.
have access to it, just like the EMS has access in case there's emergency. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's a continuum. So primarily it's the family caregiver with control and visibility into what's going on, unless there's an emergency. And just like you had described, Luke, all of their important information is right there. They're not looking for it as it's stuck on the fridge, or, sometimes they have
Right.
the
Yeah.
pulse or whatever inside their freezer, or what, it's all there. They have the information, because sometimes, minutes are all the difference
Yeah.
between, you know, uh, something more tragic than it needs to be.
Yeah.
So that was a great call out there.
Yeah, and I think Tom, so that's all about peace of mind. And again, I'm a caregiver, so it's about peace of mind.
Yes.
That is a
Yep.
huge part of what we do. And I think the other part that we touched on, but I just want to kind of reiterate it because I think
hmm
we underestimated a little bit how important it was,
hmm
is the engagement features from the smart hub and making it easy to call
Yes.
into that house to get a hold of them,
Yes.
and vice versa. I mean, there's some
Yep.
alarming data when you out there around isolation and the impact that can have on
Yes.
mortality. It's like smoking 15 cigarettes a day. I
Yeah.
mean, it is catastrophic. So we
Yep.
have really seen the embracing of those engagement features and
hmm
making it easy for that care circle to connect. And
Yep.
it makes sense, right? The more connected that caregiver circle is, the delayed need for
Yep.
emergency services. I'm more in tune with what's
Right.
going on with my loved one. I can get in front of
Yep.
it before it becomes an emergency situation.
Yep.
And then the last point I'll make on that, we're just
Yep.
rolling out some new, so that human to human calls, but we're also rolling
hmm
out AI wellness calls where you can set up a call
hmm
every day at 6 o'clock or whatever the situation is.
Yep.
Call into the hub, just ask some general wellness questions, just
hmm
communicate with that person to
Right.
see how they're doing. Ask them some basic questions. It's very conversational. Has memory built in, can do sentiment analysis. Very powerful technology. Again,
Yep.
way to try and make sure our loved ones aren't isolated, aren't feeling alone and within their home.
Right. Right. That's fantastic. Well, I'm a believer. I know Synergy as a franchise organization is partnered with Aloe Care, because, like I said before, I think it's definitely best in class. And I'm just been so impressed with not only the offerings now, but the direction you're going in, because it's just, with the
Thank you.
focus on safety and transparency, and supporting those family caregivers to provide peace of mind. Because when you're in that sandwich generation, you're dealing with your folks, your own kids, you're working a full-time job, and like everything else you're trying to
That's right.
do. And if this is one thing that you can reduce that stress,
Yep.
that's pretty huge. Especially, I mean, even if you're nearby, but especially if you're out of the area, when you just
Right.
can't
Absolutely.
quick pop over, it's pretty huge. So, gosh, well, we covered a ton. Went a little bit longer than we normally do, but I mean, this is such great information. I really appreciate it, guys. And I will make sure that we have all the contact information on how to learn more, either through, the website or other channels, as well as way to get started in Silicon Valley or other places, because this is, I think, life-changing and transformative potentially for the family caregivers, while they're already trying to handle the challenges of taking care of their parents.
Right.
This is a great tool, and I really appreciate you guys coming on today on Synergy Sessions, and making us aware of how your product works, and keep up the good work. As I say before, the people I have on this um, podcast, you can tell there's a calling, there's a heart for this.
Mhm.
You don't necessarily, you could be in a million different technology sectors, but this is something that's clearly a passion. Each have been
Yep.
family caregivers, have loved ones that you connect with on a deeper level on what your product is doing for people. So thank you for that too. And thank you for being part of this whole supporting seniors kind of industry. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. It is personal for us for sure. And thank you for everything you're doing in Silicon Valley to keep loved
All
ones
right.
out there safe in their
Yeah.
communities. And we
Yeah.
really enjoyed this, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you
Great.
so much, Tom.
Thank you so much. All right. And take care, everybody. And we'll see you next time on Synergy Sessions. Thank you for joining us on the Synergy Sessions. We know you have a lot on your plate, so we really appreciate you spending the time with us today. If you found the information of this episode useful, please reach out to the guest or the resources in the show notes. I know they would appreciate it and would love to help. Also, if you have an idea for a future episode, please reach out to us on Instagram or Facebook, or email us and let us know. We'd love to hear from you and provide information that's useful. Lastly, please remember, you don't have to do this alone.